There's been one constant about this whole pandemic situation that, well, we're currently in. And especially in the UK, where probably on the cusp, probably in like 2 or 3 weeks' time, about to hit the second wave, if not already. Um, this has been massively pushed recently by university students. At the weekend, the University of Manchester had, I think it was 99. At last count, from what I remember seeing, it could be higher since I've done this video, but it went up from 99 to about 175 confirmed cases. That's just one university. And I guarantee you that is going on in universities around this country. And we have failed completely. Now, of course, everyone on the right wing has been living in this, well, in this slight fantasyland bubble of, oh my god, if only we had been more brave and been more like Sweden. And I'm like, what? Because here's the thing. Obviously, Sweden hasn't implemented lockdown measures, but it does have different rules in place. And while, yes, the COVID has affected Sweden and there have been deaths, they have had other things that have kept them up and running. So when the right goes, oh, I wish we were more like Sweden, I often like to chime in and just go, yeah, God, I would love to be able to, charge the rich a higher tax rate, afford more services, have more public health benefits and things like that. That's not what they're interested in. And I'm sure we'll have some people from Sweden who will probably comment on this below and tell us really about this. But this is the article just going over this now. So it's from the Guardian, and it's welcome to the libertarian welcome to the libertarian COVID fantasy land. That's Sweden to you and me. Sweden is to the 21st century right what the Soviet Union was to the 20th century left. Conservatives have transformed it into a Tory Disneyland where every dream comes true. On the shores of the Baltic lies a country that has no need to curtail civic liberties and wreck the economy to curb COVID-19. I have a dream, a fantasy, sang ABBA. Help me to help me through reality. For much of the right, that fantasy is called Sweden. Let the leader of the Conservative backbenchers stand for the Tory press and innumerable ideologies inside and outside Westminster. Sir Granby Bailey ruined a perfectly good argument that Parliament must have the power to scrutinise Johnson's emergency decrees by announcing that there was no emergency, that we could look to a country that merely had a ban on gatherings of more than 50 and restrictions on visiting care homes, a shift to table-only service in bars, and see that Sweden today is in a better place than the United Kingdom. Or, as the Sun explained on Thursday, as Boris Johnson met Anders Telgren, the Swedish public health mastermind, to do a little strategy, and has spared Sweden a second wave of COVID infections. It is not true that Sweden offers an escape from the public health catastrophe. I only wish it did, but and this is when conservative commentators, politicians, and conspiracy theorists look away. Sweden offers escape from the social catastrophe also now engulfing us. You may never hear the Telegraph or the Mail say that we need Swedish levels of sickness benefit to ensure that carers stay at home and quarantine. That carriers stay home and quarantine, or that Swedish levels of housing benefit to ensure that they aren't forced to evict those from their homes. There we go. or Swedish levels of housing benefit to ensure that they aren't evicted from those same homes. The Knights of the suburbs do not insist that hundreds of thousands who will be thrown on the dole in the coming months need Swedish levels of unemployment benefit and an interventionist Scandinavian state to retain them. COVID-19 is exposing the lack of social solidarity in Britain. For a moment, when the virus hit us and we stood together, we locked down voluntarily and applauded the NHS. Millions of people, and not only Conservative voters, were prepared to overlook the dismal truth that we had a comedy Prime Minister who was typically unequipped to lead a country in a crisis. The symbolic moment of disintegration historians will remember was when Johnson's refusal was to sack Dominic Cummings when he broke the rules and had a patriotic duty to obey. And all around us, there have been hundreds of thousands of quiet disintegrations as lives were lost and families were forced to beg at food banks. Soon, millions of lives will disintegrate as the government support is slashed. You have to be over 40 to understand the particular evil of mass unemployment. I was one of the unemployed of the Thatcher years and learned that behind the jargon about social capital and scarring is a concept that is easier to grasp. Your confidence is shot to pieces the longer you are out of work. The more insecure you become, the harder it becomes for you to convince anyone to employ you. A job can move faster than the comfortable imagine possible from something you can't get to something you can't do. Benefits are a commitment to social solidarity because they are not just protections against hunger, homelessness and want, but because they reflect a society's willingness to work with you as you struggle to hold yourself together. Take two people, one living in Malmo, the other in Manchester. When a Swede loses his job, they are entitled to up to 80% of their previous salary for the first 200 days of inactivity, up to 910 krona. That's £78 a day for the first 100 days, dropping to 70% for the next 100 days. Danes who are members of unemployment insurance funds can claim up to 90%. As importantly, Sweden is the best place in the world to lose your job because employers pay a levy to job security councils who coaches seek you out and match your skills and ambitions with the market. Rishi Sunak says that there is no point in subsidising many of the pre-COVID-19 jobs in the high street and hospitality because they are not coming back. But, like the Tories of the 1980s, he is not offering retraining to prepare for the unemployed for the jobs of the future. Once again, unemployment is the responsibility of the unemployed, even though it's a stretch to see how they are responsible for a virus jumping species in Wuhan. As for keeping 80% or indeed 90% of their income, the Resolution Foundation pointed out that under Sunak's plans, a single adult homeowner earning $20,000 a year who loses their job also loses more than 70% of their net income. Worse is still to come. At the start of the pandemic, Sunak increased tax credits and universal credit by just £20 a week. That means you're resulting in over £1,040 a year. As things stand, he is prepared to risk mass suffering by withdrawing that rise at the end of March. The fantasy land of Sweden, where sickness never comes, is a complete fairy tale. By not locking down in the spring, Sweden had a more protracted outbreak with far more deaths per capita than its neighbours. Admittedly, its death rate was not as bad as Britain's, but then no European country had a death rate as bad as Britain's because no other European country put the village idiot in charge, nor did the mastermind at Signal save the Swedish economy. Spending fell nearly as much as in Sweden, but they also did not lock down as in Denmark, which did. As for the claim that Sweden would avoid a second wave, Swedish health officials are now proposing local lockdowns for a type of we know too well. Sweden may not have been spared the storm, but it has lessons on how to shelter society until the storm passes. However deeply it claims to love Scandinavia, the Conservative Party is the last organisation on earth willing to learn from it. And I think we can all agree we are in for hard times. And you know, I am not old enough to remember that time of mass unemployment, but it is about to hit us. And if you think the Conservatives and Rishi Sunak is going to help you out this time, think again. Because he had deigned to raise, obviously, tax credits and universal income, but that's being withdrawn in March. So people are about to lose their money. We don't have these types of things over here because the Conservatives, as it was said, as much as they love to talk about Sweden, half the stuff that's out there in Sweden, they would never, ever in a month of Sundays, ever want to bring to this country. But I'll tell you who did. Jeremy Corbyn. And this is why I say to, Momentum members, just because Corbyn is out, do not give up the fight. Learn from that era, learn from your mistakes, and, adapt them. It's not too late to still push, really good, solid, socialist policies. Many of the stuff, and we'll say it now, much of the stuff that Corbyn was suggesting is very commonplace in stuff like Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. So, we'll just have to wait and see. But as always, we'll see you next time.